All right, as we're talking about right here on Isaac 98.1 FM, I've got my guests for this evening on the inside. I've got a lot of people coming in tonight, and we are having so many different discussions and so many things that are relevant to what we as a people, what individuals face and as a society after celebrating 60 years independence. The question is, do you think we're in a safe place with regards to what is taking place with our young people and youth, where crime is on the upsurge and everyone is saying, it's young people and that's it. But what are we doing to make that change? Are we doing what our parents did, bringing us up with the values and insisting on certain things that we would hold fast to and not be courageous and so many things that came out of the last few weeks that were taking place. So I'd like to welcome Pastor Bellotte. Yes, so Pastor Bellotte, I would like to welcome you to Isaac again. No stranger to us. And this evening, last week, just Minister Bellotte and, and all those things. And it's really, really great that we can have him. And I was saying that, God really anoints and appoints. And God has anointed the man of God. So he's now Pastor Dexter Bellotte. So it's great to have you here with us this evening to share not just on what the Word of God says, but from your profession as well, and interacting with persons and counseling. And we know that you are going to help persons understand what we can do, a call to action, what we can do to make that difference in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes?
Amen, Madonna. And indeed, thank you again. And pleasant good night good evening rather to everyone who's listening. And God is good.
Indeed.
that's God is good. I just want to say that God is good, and it's a pleasure to be here again once more, flying the flag, and to be pushing forward towards change, in this regard. So yeah.
That's great. So, we were having our little discussion, during the week, talking about youth. And, the question is, do you think we as adults are doing enough? And as a father with boy children as well, do you think there's a stronger responsibility? Because you would have seen so much men in prison. And, persons ask, where are the men? And, I have another question next week because we're praying for the men. There are a lot of men in prison. And, is the church ready for when they come out in Trinidad and Tobago?
Very, 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 very valid questions. Where are the men? No, I mean, we could answer that question, because we observe and we see where the men are. And we know where the majority of men are not. And that's the concerning thing, because it's not that we don't see men,
right?
But don't see men in the circles that we should be seeing men. And therefore, it speaks to the fact that something needs to be done in relation to encouraging our men to be more involved, to get involved, to help break the barriers that we have. And the thing is, we could go back in time. I can go back into my life and I could say, I grew up without a father. My dad wasn't present. And I can go even far back as to say, I remember being in primary school and looking in and seeing, look, my friend's father coming, this one father coming, and they asked me, where your father? And I said, well, he away. And sometimes, even as a child, they get so down trying to answer the question, where's your dad? Some fathers are in prison. In fact, a lot of fathers are in prison. And it is a task to say to somebody, your father is my dad is in prison, for example. And sometimes we fail to see the effects it has on young boys. And I want to go right there tonight.
Go ahead.
When we look at the psychology of it, we look at the development of it, and not only boys, and I think I've said this already on some other platforms, when we look at the developmental stage of our teens, most of them, when they cross into the identity versus role confusion stage, and when we look at Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development, we look at identity versus role confusion, which is the place in which all teens fall at some point in time in their life. And it's also the stage in which we lose a lot of our teens. We lose a lot of our young men and our young women in this stage of identity versus role confusion. And in my practice, both as pastor now and also in counseling, you ask men, you ask boys, who are you? Who are you? And they say that it comes down to they professing and accepting that I don't know who I am. And I'm asking our listeners tonight as well, who are you? If somebody was to really come up to you and ask a question like, who are you? What would be the answer tonight? Because when we look at the fallouts, violence and truant behaviors and all these negative things that our youthful population and our adult population end up in, where is the root of it is the question I ask. And the root certainly is not in the action. As sad as it is not in the crime. The root is not in the crime. The root is not in the murder. The root in many cases started years ago. The root is deep down in childhood. In many cases, in that experience you had, in that lack of identity. And the thing is, when your child reaches 12, 13 years and they start to look in the home trying to find, who am I? And they look around as the young man and see no daddy. Mommy can't teach me how to be a man, you know. All the love, I love my mother. She can't teach me how to be a man. And sometimes you look around in the house again and you realize, wait, I reject stepdaddy. Stepfathers are rejected in many cases, and some stepfathers are not functioning. And then there are the fathers in the home who are present and absent.
And then there are the stepfathers, because of the stigma of he's not my father, they are hesitant, right? And and this is something to delve into even with blended families, because you want, you keep saying, yes, you want the husband, you want the wife, but then they don't want to give them any position with regards to correcting your child. I heard one parent was saying to me the other day that they corrected their son, and when they were ready now to correct their spouse child, that was another story. And the two children live under the same roof and went in two different directions, because one had to accept discipline because it was his child, but the other, because of the interaction in a negative way with regards to the mother, well, then he built on that and did what he wanted. And when the like we say, you create a monster, when the monster comes back to bite you, you're upset. And they wouldn't study, the whole trait that happens when they were younger.
Yeah, well, let's go there. Because the thing is that we always, and it's something that we constantly speak about on this platform now, Foundation. And sometimes the conversations that were supposed to take place before marriage, for example, doesn't take place. You see, persons develop the concept that all I need is a few sessions of counseling before marriage. Let's go back to the foundation. What is necessary is premarital preparation. Why? Because we'll be able to have the conversations necessary to understand what takes place after I say I do. And we'll be able to have the conversations like, what is the nomenclature? What is the name that you're going to ascribe to the stepfather when the marriage occurs? For example, what is the relationship in relation to what does discipline look like within the blended family? And it's something that sometimes we bypass because we don't take the time to prepare properly for marriage. Persons don't take time to know what the role and functions are in marriage, much less to have the difficult conversations. Like, okay, how are we going to deal with discipline in the marriage now? who is going to discipline who? And then there's something that happens that needs conversation as well. The aspect of your child and my child. When we married, do know your child and my child
our
again.
children. Yeah.
It's our children, but some persons reject that. They reject that.
And I want them to hear what you're saying, because they want the families, they want the connectivity. Because when I sent out, what you're looking for, lots of persons wanted husband, wives, but over 40, get it real, that person would definitely have, it's not a saint, and the majority would have had a family before, would have had children before. Have you thought about, if that comes into notion, what are you going to do? Or even someone who never had children and now you're coming into a family with children, how are you treating with it? You didn't have nephews and nieces that you used to correct and all those kinds of things, It's serious.
And when we look at the behaviors of our youths, ask the question, where's the toxic temperature in the home? Because in many cases, the child leaves home because there's a level of either perceived toxicity or real toxicity that exists. And I've in my counseling sessions with youths, for example, a lot of them have said that I can't take the quarreling and the fighting. I can't take and I'm speaking about kingdom people as well. So don't feel that because we Holy Ghost filled and sanctified that we don't have this going on in kingdom homes. And in some cases it is even worse.
And it comes out.
And therefore,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it comes out even from toddlers, because I remember in my daughter's preschool, you could hear everything that goes on in the home, because when they come, Auntie ABC would hear everything that happened last night, right? And they grow up from so young seeing all of this. And it impacts them. So this is an awareness as well to parents, even as toddlers. They go into preschool and they tell Auntie A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you have to be mindful.
Indeed, and this is the thing. Long ago, persons used to think, well, they are children, and they don't know much, and they don't know this, and they don't know that. But children, babies, when we look at the psychology of attachment disorders, just from a baby, and I'm keeping it so simple tonight, just from a baby, based on the experiences the baby had, it could determine what type of relationship you would have, what type of personality you would have, what type of experiences and challenges in your relationships you could have coming out of that as well. So when we look at what is taking place in the home, that's the question. Because it starts there. What is taking place in the home that causes the children to not want to come home? Not only the daddy, not only the mommy, in some cases don't want to come home and prefer to work late and prefer to go and lime and drink and smoke and overwork and accept extra duty after extra duty because I can't take the toxicness in the house. And in some cases, a lot of children feel trapped as well.
Wow. And then they're so consumed with that now the children are ignored. And I think his internet is sticking. All right. You're stuck there for a while. Yeah.
I was wondering, yes.
Yeah, so I was saying, and then in circumstances like that, now the children are ignored.
Yes.
The children are ignored.
So what we see developing here is the aspect of a cyclical wheel being created where one thing is leading into the other and then it begins to spin and spins and spins. And sometimes when you look back, I'm jumping in there one time, but let's continue. The aspect of mentorship, for example. A lot of persons would say, well, put them in, well, in fact, let's go back a bit. One of the first things that they do that we tend to do whenever our children are in some sort of problem or truant, we look to say, well, if you don't like school, take them out of school. Go and learn a trade. In fact, a lot of our children, especially between that adolescent age, 13 and up and so on and so forth, they're smoking marijuana. They're coping through drugs. A lot of them coping through sex as well, and you just don't know. And the thing is, a lot of things happening in the homes, and a lot of children living double lives, and you don't know. And I've had the unfortunate experience of hearing some parents say, "Hey, I don't know who that person is. That child is nothing like that at home. That could never be my child. That could never be my son. That could never be my daughter." Until they hear for themselves and see for themselves who the person that is not home but in a different environment is. And then it comes down to now the survival mode of our children. A lot of our children is in survival mode because that's what they need to do to survive in the system. In some cases, in the secondary school system, in some cases, in the education system, we have things that we need to look at deeply.
Yes.
Because I remember when I went to school years ago, on the first day of school, I was robbed. I was robbed going for a maxi. And then when I came back the next day, I was robbed in the washroom within the school by a Form 5 pupil.
Wow.
And I'm saying that years after, I don't think it may not be any different. It may still be happening. And I use the word may because I don't know. But I'm certain that I have 3 boys going secondary school, and I hear these stories.
Wow.
I hear these stories, and I constantly tell my children, make sure and stay out of people's way. Make sure and protect all yourself. Don't go into no fight. If somebody do you something, go and report it. Don't engage anybody. We have to have these conversations with our children because we know the times we see the videos of the different fights upon fights. And allow me to inject here tonight the aspect of the actions of our children. When you see actions, you look for thoughts and feelings that came from a place. And in many cases, the experiences that our children has had brings them to the point of thinking a particular way, feeling a particular way, and acting a particular way. So therefore, when we look at the actions, we must understand that we are not just to scold our children for what they did, but we must ask the hard questions. What was the experience? What led to this? We need to look deeper to find the root of these things, because they wouldn't get better if we don't address the issues from the root.
That's so
and
true.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's so true. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of the persons who are even listening, I'm sure a lot of our listeners had negative experiences as teenagers. Some are secrets, like a taxi driver raping you on your way home and you never tell anybody. Some are secrets,
and
like a boy bothered and have never told anybody. There's a lot of baggages that our children carry, and the same outlet that should be present for them to feel safe enough to speak, in some cases are not there. Because I tell mommy that this happening and she ignored it. She told me that I lie. She told me it's not true. I tried to explain why I break school the other day because I'm afraid that they threatened to beat me up or to kill me or to shoot me. And I tried to say it and they tell me I'm lying. And these are some of the things that we must understand, that the relationship with our children needs to be at a place where they feel comfortable enough to come to us and tell us anything.
Yes, and if I may interject as well with regards to that level of respect which we see no longer exists, and who is responsible for that? Because long ago we grew up in a time where a simple good morning and good evening, passing by children would have said that to you. Also, you would realize that that even children now, I had to pose a question about if you see them doing something wrong, you could have a conversation. And wow, I got so many voice notes, so many messages that evening because persons were saying about, the negative things that happen. But I was saying to them, in spite of it, it's just how we do it. And you would know the Holy Spirit will guide you who to approach. Because if you see them in some, okay, so for example, a boy and a girl. I remember seeing a boy and a girl, she in her school uniform on Independence Square, and the young man, bow, slap, some little quarrel they had. And I was in Independence Square, so I get shocked. So I, and I walked across. I was like, how you could hit a girl like that? Is a young lady in school. She's in school. Are you her father? No. Young lady, where's your mother? You understand? And they listened as well and that kind of thing, and I had a serious conversation right down Independence Square. But we have become a society where nobody wants to get involved, nobody wants to say anything. So therefore, because nobody wants to say anything, they just left there. If I see them in the mall and the activity not suitable for outside, what you doing being jack up on a in the mall in a corner, and your mom send you, to hang out with friends, and he have you up in the corner there, and we pass by and just talk about it. No, that's somebody's daughter that mother doesn't know. She probably working hard, and she just know, So I got a lot of licks. Yeah, hi to my people in Tobago. I'm not calling any names, right? Because they were like, the activity, somebody said they tried that, and man, they get cussed out and that kind of thing, you know what I mean? So because of that, it's as if the tail wagging the dog, because there's a fear now for persons to even give that type of correction. And like I said, because we understand the atmosphere, then, we take it down a bit, but we need to do more. We can't just leave, there's our future. We can't, you understand? We cannot just leave it like that.
You're speaking to the bystander's effect. That's somebody else's problem. The next person coming along will do something. I don't want to do it. Or I'm afraid. And you use the right word, is a level of fear. But this is so technical. Because in some cases, some persons may say, well, you can't blame me. Look at what's happening. I don't want to push my mouth in this, and then boom. Sometimes the very same children we're talking about, they are very skilled and they have evolved into career criminals. Some of our same young children. And the fact is, we cannot go thinking that we bury our head in the sand and thinking that some of our children are not trained, are not pruned or groomed into being or carrying on a criminal persona or personality. Because when we look at the aspect of identity, and here we are going,
Go ahead.
When we look at the identity versus role confusion, and these children are in this space now where I'm looking for the who am I in life, or who I should be in life, who am I to become in life, and I look around the house and the house is toxic, then I leave the house and I go outside in the community. In many cases, to get to the church, you have to do what? You have to walk down the street, walk up the step, and go through the doors, and then you're in the church. But on the way to the church, there are the gangs, there is the block, there is the influence, there is the drugs, there is the guns. So that to even get to the church in some cases, you're being recruited on the way. You're being recruited on the way. Look at some of the crimes our youths are getting themselves into. Young children robbing, young children stealing, young children murder.
And
attempted murder.
And the thing about it is that's been happening for a while. So if we see that happening for a while and we don't do anything, there's no call to action, what happens? And that's the big concern. There must be a call to action to bring that change, because we delve into parents now, encouraging them, because so you have your children, you wouldn't go through their bag, they come home with something that you didn't purchase, and you, because they say they wanted it or whatever, you're not interested in how they get it to send them back where they get it from, right? And then even encourage them to do other things to get more to make you comfortable. That's madness.
Correct. And you know, you say that they remind me of long ago, you know, you're coming from school, and my mom used to say, bring your bag, let me check your bag. You know, let me see what you do for the day. You know, and some of these things that may seem so trivial, they are so important. Because I've heard children in my sessions with them say, hey, you know, Mr. Bellotte, if I had somebody to talk to me like this before, I would have never get myself in trouble. Because they're crying out for guidance. And in fact, I also remember clients would say, I'm talking about children clients, youth clients who would say, my father give me too much leeway. And I didn't need leeway. I needed him to tell me, no, don't do that. No, don't do that. To be rigid with me. I just wish he would have done that, but he wanted to be my friend. And the aspect of a parent friend, I'm not saying you can't be a friend to your children, you know, but you're called to be a parent first. You're called to be a parent first, and you're called to put down the boundaries and the foundation. You're called to build the foundation first. And in many cases, what we see happening even in today's society is mommy is best friend with daughter. Nobody guiding nobody.
That making sense to me now. That make me start to twitch there with that one. Right? Remember, you can WhatsApp us 275-1981 because it's all a call to action with regards to parents or children or future coming out to celebrating 60 years anniversary. What do you see ahead of us with regards to us impacting our young people and making a difference?
Yes, and Madonna, good night to you. Lovely topic. I have two children going secondary, 13-year-old in Form 1 and 16-year-old in Form 4. Every single day I pray with them and I encourage them not to get in anybody's way, don't get in any fight. Anybody come around with you, go and report it. You have to keep your children on track and keep them covered with the blood of Jesus. Have a blessed night.
All right, thank you for that voice note. Continue sending your voice notes 275-1981, and it's all about our children. It's all about parenting. What we can do to make a significant difference in the lives of our youth today, so that we wouldn't see so many children involved in crime. I remember someone saying to me that the area that they lived, it was where he would get or be on that journey to church, and there'd be other recruiting persons there for him. And he went to the recruiting officer and he said, I'm asking you, please don't give my son no sneakers. I ain't gonna take care of him. You understand? Don't give him anything. And he said he had to consistently do that until the person said, okay, I would leave your son alone. You understand? So sometimes as a parent, with that relationship you have with the children, they will say, okay, look, Pastor Dexter say I could get shoes from him, and because it's a brand, you understand? And he spoke to his son sternly. He said, I will get it for you. Don't take it from you know. And this is how far a parent may have to go in order to keep your child safe. I had another person, and he was from, and I wanted to have him here tonight. I'll probably bring him next week. He wrote a book. He lived on the Beatum. He said his mother, he says he used to put cotton in his ear just to be focused to study, right? Because his mother was not playing. And she worked with him. He ended up going to Hillview College. Right?
Yeah.
Because she was, oh my goodness, she was up with him. He says, while, you know, everybody partying and that kind of thing. So you have to sometimes do what it takes. So don't say where you at, you know, the noise is too much in the night. He put cotton in his ears.
Amen. You know, I want to share a few things, right? I want to share a few things here. I don't want to use the word begging, but I'm really asking listeners tonight to really internalize how important your role and function as father and as mother is in the development, the holistic development, the mind, body, soul, and spiritual development of your children. You know, fathers, let me just jump on this for a bit. We fathers, we have a responsibility. Even when we look at John 5:19, it said, Jesus gave them this answer. He said, I tell you the truth, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can only do what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son does also. And I want to ask fathers tonight, what your children seeing you doing? Because in many cases, you know, some fathers say, I smoking, yes, but I don't want to see all you smoking. I doing this, but I don't want to see all you doing this. But you know what happens? Once the son see the father do it, the son start to do it too. And let me say this as well. For the fathers that are home in the house, but you're missing in action. Some of our fathers are there in the house and they just existing in there. Nobody knows anybody. There's no relationship. As kingdom people as well, we have a responsibility. Madonna, we as husbands, as kingdom fathers, we supposed to be in the position of priests in our homes. We are not supposed to be absent at all. In fact, we're supposed to be having family devotions. We're supposed to be having family meetings. We're supposed to be praying with our wife, praying for our family, praying with our children, and all these things. You see, even if you're saying tonight, well, you know, I don't believe in Christ, I know coming to Christ, or maybe you're a young believer, the word of God says it straight, you know, and I unapologetically refer to the word of God. Because the fact of the matter is that there's no other way. You know, when you look at the aspect of fatherless homes and the missing and absent father, 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. And this is dear to me because we have a lot of children in our homes today, even tonight, right now. Some of them may be listening to the program and they've attempted suicide a few times. Some are cutting. And you're looking for the cut on the wrist. They're not cutting on the wrist. They're cutting under the clothes, on the stomach, on the upper thigh. Some are taking pins and choking it inside the nail beds so that you wouldn't see the outside, an actual incision. Some of our youths are so depressed. You know, and I've had sessions with youths most recently. And the thing is, they've attempted, and bless God, thank God that in all the cases, so the belt bursts. I tie the belt around my neck and I jump and it bursts. I tie the shit around my neck and it bursts. I'm being real tonight because we need to understand what is taking place, how it is that you don't have that relationship with your children. This is the time to forge it, you know. Madonna, you speak about what we need to do moving forward from this independence. We need to take a greater interest in our children. When last you went in your children's bedroom, you know it has some families, they don't even go in the children's bedrooms.
I mean, don't go in the bedroom.
They don't know what's going on inside there.
Paying the mortgage up in here. I mean, you understand? I don't understand.
I had a client some years ago, Madonna. The mother never went in the bedroom. Young man had about 50, 60 something knives in the house, in the bedroom. I'm saying that in some of the bedrooms, listeners tonight, in some of your bedrooms, your children is hiding drugs and marijuana, weapons, guns. Being real, do you know what is in your children's bedroom? No, I'm not trying to frighten nobody. But I'm saying that when you read the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, you would see that if they find a weapon in your house, it doesn't matter who it is, everybody goes down.
I'm glad you're saying that because there are some parents I remember hearing, you know, they will say, I'm not going down with all, you know, get this thing out of my house, get this thing out of my house. And those were, you know, the older parents that would be emphatic about it and they would make sure it come out of the house because they're not playing. And parents, you have a responsibility because many times they know what's going on. You know what's going on. And this is the future we're talking about. And in case you're listening and you're saying, that will affect me, yes, because they bounce up your children in school, they'll bounce them up on the street, they'll bounce them
Right.
up in Pennywise. Let's get real now. They're bouncing them up in Pennywise, where we going, they're bouncing them up in the clothes store, anywhere. So yes, this would affect you, one way or the other.
Indeed. You know, 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. And when we start taking apart these statistics, we see that the problem is huge. And hear this, you know, our region, we lack adequate stats, right? This is in our first world country. This is in the United States. So could you imagine if we had to really do these studies? What's taking place? 85% of all children who show behavior disorders come from fatherless homes, 20 times the average according to the Center for Disease Control. And I asked the question, I asked it many times. Our children have been through a lot. Come through COVID-19. Some of our children still battling grief and loss. Some children went back to the school system and realized that their form teacher was dead. Let's be real. Did we take the time to address that particular issue? Do we understand the level of grief and loss that our children are experiencing? Because there are stages to grief and loss. The first is denial, the second is anger.
I want to take two voice notes here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I know of a situation that happened in a school. Yes, I know of a situation that happened in a school where a parent was encouraging her daughters to do acts of witchcraft so that her children can end up on top. These two little girls kept staying after school late all the time, and the teacher observed that they were staying late all the time, and she felt uncomfortable, and it was unsafe for children that age. But usually their mother would pick them up. So she stayed back sometime, and she stayed in a desk. She says, let me see what those girls are doing. Then she saw them stick something under the desk of one student who used to be very brilliant and suddenly became confused and was weak in classes and in her subjects and all of that, only to discover that the mother, she mandated those girls to stick something under that child's desk because that girl was actually the most brilliant girl in the class. These are things that our children are facing in the schools. How do we handle it? What next?
Pastor, and I did that one, and I have another. Someone is saying pray, because at the end of the day, they still make their choice. Someone is saying that, and there's no one-way street to parenting, and that is true. We understand that. So that's why we're having many persons, they would WhatsApp and call in and talk, because sometimes you may pick up something and you say, I'll try that, and it will work. So therefore you can't isolate yourself, and then you are robbed of other opportunities that can help you make it work. All right? So somebody said, however, as a parent and a friend, teach them to live, and what you teach them and guide them. Nip it in the bud from early. And we agree with that. Nip it in the bud from early. All right. So I will continue reading because I have a few, but I would love to hear what Pastor has to say.
You know, nothing but the blood of Jesus. I want to start there. You know, sometimes we hear aspects of the devil works, the devil and his works, you know, and we need to cover our children. And I know that nothing is stronger than the blood of Jesus. And the thing is that in spite of what persons try to do outside of there, what is necessary though is to have that level of faith instilled in our children. It means that the pattern must be developed where our children understand what it means to speak about Jesus, understand the power and authority that Jesus has. You see, a lot of the times we want to tell our children, pray, believe in Jesus Christ, get baptized, and we don't explain to them what that means. You see, we must understand that the Bible gives us the charge to train up our children, to teach our children, train them up in the ways of the Lord. What does that mean, to train them up? It doesn't mean to just tell them pray. It means that as parents, we must live the life according to the word, so that when they see us do it, I just read it a while ago, when they see us do it, they will model and pattern what we do. You see, and there are cultures where daddy would say go to church, but daddy not going to church, daddy home. Mommy may say go to church, mommy not going to church, mommy sending us. Now I understand. But when we look at what the words say, the words say the son does only what you see the father doing. And you know, it is a very good point the lady bring, right? When she spoke about what's taking place in the school and what the parent is encouraging them to do. But you know, imagine the parent is encouraging the child to do that. And she have done so well in teaching them to do that, that they know how to do and how to follow her commands. Where's the pushback from the kingdom, where our children know exactly how to and what to? And sometimes you go in a circle. I do a lot of motivational speaking for schools. And you go into the school and you could ask, pray now. Who wants to pray? And you get a quiet, a stillness. And you might hear that one in the midst of 100+ students say, I will pray. Bless God. And I'm saying that we need to create the pushback from the kingdom. Where's the kingdom pushback? Where's the kingdom pushback? That my child could stand with the boldness of faith and say, I'm a Christian, I believe in Christ, and I will bless God, and I could praise Jesus, and I could tell her about Jesus while I'm in school. Where is that? You see, but the enemy is so crafty that he creates the avenues where our children are being used for negativity, and not only in witchcraft. When we say, have meetings with your children at home, have a family meeting at home, have family devotions at home. You know where the family devotion is taking place? TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. The family devotion taking place whether you like it or not. The grooming taking place whether you like it or not, because we don't set adequate boundaries for our children. You want to know how to move forward? You must not make the decision to say, you know what, I want to remain friend to my child so I wouldn't bring discipline and order in my home. And failure to bring discipline and order in your home, listen, and I'm not saying to be draconian here. I'm not saying to be barbaric here. I'm saying that we must do everything in love. We must teach our children to love, that agape love. We must, but if you don't know, how would you do? And I'm hearing somebody saying that right now. Well, Pastor, if you don't know, how you will do it? If you don't know, then get help.
And it's okay to ask for help.
Find a apostle, find a pastor, find professional counseling. Some families need professional help. And you know what? And Madonna, forgive me tonight, you know.
Go ahead.
But I've seen it because, you know, it have some men who will prefer to go and buy a bottle of alcohol than to pay to come and get help for the family and the self. That some women will do that the same way. And I understand that may be a coping mechanism. That may be how you self-medicate. But understand that it is not helping you and it is not helping your family. 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. We're looking at crime. Where did it start? Daddy, I'm saying tonight that your involvement in your children's life is very important, because if you don't involve yourself in the proper way, not being present and absent, not being present and because you're there and you're not with their mother anymore, are going there, you're not with their mother anymore, so you're holding her ransom so that every time you visit a drop off money, you want her to sleep with you, are going there for the money, and only not in a relationship. You're holding the children ransom. You don't want to take care of them unless, and in some cases, Madonna, it goes even deeper than that, you know. Some fathers go to the point where they would make the new relationship And some mothers as well, they would make the you're no longer together. You all separate and go on all your way. But you will make the relationship, the new relationship with the mother or the new relationship with the father live in hell. Why? Because you're not there anymore. And they will try to turn the children against the home and the stepfather and these kind of things. It's time we stop doing these things.
Yes.
Understand that when you do that, you're actually teaching your child to do something wrong and ungodly. And you're teaching them how to react when they have children, when they have a family. We need to go back to the root and do the thing the right way.
Family life. Come back to that family life. And you know, someone said something here, and I want to really endorse this, where that your child's future really shouldn't be determined by their background, especially as a praying parent. And God is able. So we want to put that out there as well, because there are thousands, countless of testimonies coming out from persons who would have had a particular background that you wouldn't think they would have made it, right? But God did it. He changed their lives. And even, and you were saying you grew without a father, and yet still you chose a different path, right? I know I grew up in Mova, and I hear Chris J talk about it. One day he was talking about it with, his children, and when they went to look for the grandparents, the experience, they gotta show us another path. You understand? So when you hear us talking, some of us is not we weren't handed down a gold spoon, like somebody said the other day, your blue eye baby. No. You understand? Work real hard. And the thing about it is, I didn't have a parent who had money to put me through university. So I had to get my degree by myself. That was work and do it. You understand? So many of us would have done what it takes because we wanted something different. We wanted something more. So you don't have to be a product of your environment. You don't.
I'm glad you say that, because there are two things I want to talk about here. The aspect of resilience. If I'm to tell my story, you may not believe me. But at one point in time, I stood on my rooftop. I was probably about 13 years, fed up with life and ready to take my life. I was fed up. Growing up was hard. And watch me, and I enjoy giving my testimony when I meet with children and I ask the question, anybody ever tote water? Anybody ever wash clothes with their hand? Anybody? Because some persons look at you and they try to measure you and figure that you don't know what hard life is. Some persons try to measure you and figure, well, you don't know what it is to have nothing to eat. What it is to eat green fig and oil and salt. And the thing is, when you get to that point as a youth and you look around, now we know that there's a different dynamic. Young girls mature faster than young boys. One, young girls are more vocal. Women in the whole are more vocal. They would be more open to speak and say how they feel. But as men and as boys, we learn not to do that. So when you reach in a position as a young man and you look around for support and you don't know who to turn to and what to say, who to ask, who to tell, then in many cases you go silent. And you know what happens to our young boys as well, Madonna? A lot of our young boys identify with similarity. But all are we going through hard times? All of us. So now we become a clique. We become a clique based on experiences. So we start to gel together because we're going through the same thing. And then it becomes easy to recruit you because the gang leader knows what you're missing. The gang leader says, we want a shoe, a thing. You just said it not too long ago. They look at you, they look for your needs, and they try to meet your needs to get you to see, well, hey, all of us going through the same thing. We fighting the struggle, we fighting the Babylon system, and they recruit you. Because at this stage in your life, in this identity stage in your life, this looking for identity, you're easy to pull. And the thing is, if we don't give our children an identity in Christ, then what would the enemy do? What would the enemy do if you sitting down home and you're not taking the time to ensure that your children develop an identity in Christ? Then what identity they learning? What identity they would get? And sadly, when we look at it, I remember, in our parents' day, a teacher saying to my mom, better you take Dexter out of school, and let him go and learn a trade or something, because he not doing good in school at all. I used to come 33rd in tests. I'm talking about 33rd out of 35 children in a class, and I'm coming 33rd. And they look at the results and they measure me based on the results, not knowing that there was a master's with first class honors in me. They didn't know that there was a pastor in me, there was a master's with first class honors, there was a bachelor's degree in me. And I'm saying that for somebody tonight who have been told that you're not good enough, who've been told you don't need to be a child alone. Maybe you're 25, 26, 35, 45, 50 something, 60 something, and you've been told that you're not good enough. And I'm saying that, listen, don't let nobody throw you off of your true God-given purpose. And when we look at identity speaks to the who am I in the person that created me. My identity is based on who created me. And the thing is, the next thing I wanted to share this brief story about one of the experiences. It's no secret that I'm a prisons officer, and I unequivocally say it because I like persons to know that I am a prisons officer. I've been a prisons officer for over 17 years. But I remember when I had just applied for that job. Madonna, I applied for this job and it took me a while to get in. And while I'm there, waiting for them to call, to take me out of poverty, a lot of our servicemen, a lot of persons would have come to the point where, like me, I was on the brink. I was fighting it. It was a struggle. And I say, you know what? If I get in a service, it would kind of settle me down to go where I wanted to go. I know I wanted to be a psychologist. But sometimes the place that you want to go and you know you're going, there are roads you have to take before you reach there. So I want to tell somebody tonight, slow down and understand that there are steps to climb before you get where you need to be, or you want to be, or you believe was set for you. And Madonna, I in the river playing liming with some friends, and all of a sudden somebody pull out a spliff, marijuana. Them days marijuana illegal. All parts of marijuana illegal them days. And a man pull out a joint, he light it up and they start puff passing. I'm in the circle, I'm there. And he come to me. I say, now fellas, I good. I only know I don't smoke and pass it. When he reaches second rounds and come back to me, men head start again nice. So the talk start. Boy, you feel better than we out. We feel going on, boy. What going on with you, boy? Think, boy, it's a girl or what? Boy, take a pull now, boy. Take a pull.
Okay, pressure.
I take the jam in for about 20 minutes, Madonna. And then when I can't take it no more, I say, you know what, boy? I gone from here, boy. All the fellas, not ready yet. Boy. And I leave there. And I want to ask the question, how many persons do you asking here tonight? Do you have the tenacity, the power, the willpower to stand up in that time and walk away? It mightn't be a pull. It might be a friend encouraging you, boy, let me go and rob the store down the road. Let me go and put on a robbery so. Let me go and do so. You know what happened when I reach home? When I leave the river that day, as soon as I walk inside, the phone ring. And guess who was calling? The prison was calling.
Wow.
The prison was calling. And here what they calling to tell me that I've been successful and I have to come down to do a medical the next day.
Wow.
And the fella was so good. He always say, I hope you're not smoking no weed, because you have to do a drug test in the morning. Could you imagine where my life would have been if I had taken that one pull?
That one pull, boy. Wow.
And the thing is, sometimes we hear persons speak, and sometimes you speak to persons and they say just one mistake. And there's some one mistake positions and experiences and encounters that could change your whole trajectory of life. Look what the devil was trying to stop. I may not even
Just
have
the
been on the
brink.
program tonight.
Just on the brink, of your breakthrough. And when we say that, persons don't understand. That is such an excellent example. I see in another WhatsApp, and I have a few. If you all could voice note, that'd be so much easier. Then it saved me having to read, the messages, because it's lengthy. But when you say it and we play it, then it comes across, a lot better. So send voice notes instead. No, that'd be nice, right? Someone is saying here that what you were saying was so true. Her son was, when he was 14 years, she said the Lord woke her up at night and told her to go into his room, and she didn't find anything. She said she found nothing. So she went back to her bed, and she said she got pushed off the bed and was told to go back. And she said she did only walk, when she walked in, she walked over a lump in the carpet. And she said her eyes, when it went down, it was like, I don't know, I can't understand what she said here, but she said she kept going in, and to be told she found something. And when she asked him about it, he said he keeping it for a friend. But she trip off. You understand? That's another thing. You want to keep things for friends, right? Somebody's saying you're talking to them. I guess with regards to going and checking your children's room and all those kinds of things, that is important. We need to do. Someone said that we won't agree. I think I would like to play it. She says we would. Is it this one, boy? Let me see where she said. With regards to having and okay, let me see. Tell me if you're hearing.
A reflection of you, of what you put in from conception. So let's say about 5 years old. You really pattern you, not just what they got in school, but what they get in the home. And if they don't allow God and the Word of God to transform them and to transform their thinking, they're in trouble. Because at the end of the day, regardless of the background that we come from or where we come from, God has to be in the picture for change to take place.
Yeah, she was saying we would not agree with her. That's how she started off saying. And saying that, a child is a product of their children. And I wouldn't say so in all circumstances, because I had somebody on a few weeks ago. I'm going to have him on next week again. And he said his parents gave him everything. He came from, a good family. Both parents were there. Wasn't a single parent home. And he just chose a life of crime.
Exactly. And let me address that, because in some aspects she correct. Yes, some may be and some may be. Remember, we just talking holistic here tonight. But remember, you may not remember, but when we look at identity versus role confusion, and we haven't touched role confusion yet, identity that causes you to go searching through all different things. We would find that our children may be trying to look like one artist this week, trying to sound like one artist this week, want to look this particular way, want to grow their hair, they want to trim this way, and then by next week they switch. I thought you wanted to. And then there's a switch. Now I don't like that again, because they're funneling through different identities, trying to find their own. The problem with that is when a child reaches in that identity, that teenage adolescent stage, the parents are not the main people who they put their full trust in and faith in. Friends becomes more important than their parents in some aspects. And so you may say something and you hear them saying, yeah, but Jimmy says so. Jimmy is the best friend. Jimmy says so and so. But Miss says so and so. So they try now to say that, you don't know everything. And then some of our children in that adolescent phase, they become very independent and selfish. They only think about me and my development, and they could come across very brash, very, very uncaring, very selfish, and even disrespectful in how they speak at times. And we must understand that that adolescent stage, those are some of the things that they have to deal with, that change up in emotions. And then when these young ladies start to see the period, the whole issue with the hormones and the PMS and all of these things comes together. And the thing about it is that we must find ways, not just to be authoritarian all the time and you want to be so strict and so rigid, but you must find ways to do what you do in love. Find ways to have the conversations in love. Here's why. Remember, I gave you a story just now. The aspect of dropping out of school has become so normal that a lot of our children try to exit school from the time they hit 14.
The minute they find that things become difficult and there's no one to push them and encourage them, just like how somebody wanted you to drop out and there are others that would have want to speak those type of things, and there is nobody to push them and say, don't listen to that teacher, you are going to make it. They choose the easy way out, and that is what I think is the magnitude of everything when somebody will turn because they want the easy way out. And we have to understand that life isn't easy, and we need to let our children know that and understand that you will get some no's. And you have to accept the no's that you get. I just want to play this voice note quickly.
Hi, good night. Great program. Calling from Tobago here. What I have to say, unfortunately, many times as parents, you tend to believe that you want to show or teach life lessons to children through hardship. And that is not always the best thing. Really and truly, what ought to happen is that you ought to instill discipline, responsibility, and accountability into your children so that should hard times come, they would be equipped to deal with those things. Too many people have this idea of, like, if you don't go through hardship, it's like you're not equipped to experience life lessons in a particular kind of way or glean from them in one way or the next. So I just want to put that inside there. Again, you want to instill the virtues of discipline, accountability, and responsibility into your children as early as possible. Thank you. Hi, good night again. Now, very good program, touching on so many things. Now, this is something as a woman, Madonna, I would like you to perhaps chime in on and perhaps give a perspective on behalf of, perhaps friends and colleagues and persons you may know. I think it all kind of comes down to making better choices, better mate choices. Why is it that, we allow our sexuality to overpower so many other things? I think we as humans need to be, a little bit more, get that together, not allow our sexuality to control us, but rather we control our sexuality. Too many times we don't take into consideration the potential, what is likely for this our partner to become. What kind of parent do you think this person I'm putting myself with is likely to become? And many times when we go, we have fun, we engage in reckless behavior, and a child comes out of it, then we want magic to happen. And we knew very well from the start this individual was not proper potential parenting material. And the cycle continues and it goes on and on and on. And 18 years down the road, people become adults, is all kind of backlash and sting that parents often not prepared to deal with.
Right.
Thank you.
What I will say from a lady's standpoint, sometimes and Dexter, I don't know if you had that encounter too, and even in counseling, and I've spoken to a number of women who didn't listen to their parents. And as a parent now, we realize that we have a sixth sense. And when our mothers were like, "I ain't feeling good, I ain't looking good, that not good," we ain't seeing that because we could only see thus far. And that's what I say. It's even to my daughter now, that I understand that parents see beyond, right? And then I had another girlfriend, she was a PK, and her father told her about the person, and she insisted, right? And you know, they went with the flow, and they got married and everything else. We all did it. But and I think for me, I would say, is not listening to my parents. And I say it all the time. I say, if I didn't listen to mommy, it would have been different, you know, that kind of thing. And a lot of women can attest to it. So sometimes even in the church, right? And we may have issues sometimes when and there is a part where you can be guided by God. I'm not saying no, because I've known excellent marriages where some parents didn't like the person, and it really was just their own feelings. There wasn't no guidance. And the husband turned out to be excellent, exceptional. But then there are some that the mother or the father saw that, and they ain't seeing it now. It's years down the road. You would get licks. And I don't mean literal licks, but I mean when the pressure come, you could have saved yourself from that if you walked in obedience, and that's what it all comes down to. And another thing, when the Prime Minister said for women to make better choices as well, you know, a lot of women were upset, but he was very correct. You understand? Very correct. So, Dex.
Yeah, you know, what you're saying, also when we look at it, our women must understand as well, and I guess I would speak to women and kingdom women as well, because you see, in many cases, a lot of women go into relationships, Madonna, enter into relationships because you need something to make you feel whole. Because a lot of women cycle through relationships because there's a void. And in order to fill the void of loneliness, a lot of women enter in or must be in a relationship. So we have the cheapening of what a kingdom relationship should look like for the sake of not being alone. And that could be a whole different topic. But the aspect of relationship with the Holy Spirit, the aspect of being able to live as a single person, to live and embrace singleness first, helps to reduce the aspect of trying to find a pad. This is a padding. This man is a padding. I just don't want to be alone. I can't take this silence. I just need to have somebody in my life. And it causes a level of cheapening of the order of it. And so that conversation you're having, that conversation has a lot to do with me as a single person presenting the best part of myself, understanding that, okay, the person God sent for me, the person that I believe. And I ask the question sometimes, do you believe this is the person God sent for you to get married to? Because a lot of persons are in relationships that the woman is a Christian, is a kingdom citizen, and the man don't believe in God. But you've seen a future with this man, and they're expecting godly principles from a secular man. And it's not the man's fault, he don't know. And the vice versa to that, the flip side it is, you're a kingdom man, and you're going into a relationship with a secular woman, and you're expecting kingdom qualities from her. And in many cases, she doesn't know. So at the end of the day, sometimes it's because we stray, and we have strayed from the order. And then we see the issues because it becomes infatuation and not love, because there's a way to love. So you with a man, look how the Holy Spirit has switched conversations there. You with a man that is not a Christian, you believe in God, you Holy Spirit filled and sanctified, and you gone with a man who is not, he don't know God at all, and you expecting that when things happen in the marriage or the relationship, that man would love you with the love of God, and he don't know God. He can't love you the agape way.
And then what do you do now when the person was in church? Because you heard of situations, and we've been there, done that, where they come into the church, become a part of the church community, and then after marriage, things shut down, right? Don't want you to go to church, all those kinds of things. I remember in church, got married in church, and after a year, church was too much, and you as the Christian wife, because he's a Christian husband, say, okay, I have to listen to your husband, and you say, okay, no, I wouldn't go as often and thing, and then go and have a talk and like, hey, it was saved before that. So it even happened with in the Christian community with men who come to church.
And I'm glad you say that.
Go ahead, I know.
You could ask the questions now. How long was the preparation for marriage? What took place pre-marriage? And in many cases, from my experiences as well, you hear a person say, well, we just get three counseling sessions before we get married. We get counseling for 2 weeks before we get married. And let me give a bit of my life. Before my wife and I got married, we were in premarital preparation for almost 2 years. Premarital preparation is not counseling. What is needed before you get married, listeners tonight, hear my voice. What is needed before marriage is not counseling. Counseling is part of what is needed. What is needed is premarital preparation, so that we could ask you the hard questions, and we could find out if you know what your role and function as wife and your role and function as husband is. That we could throw scenarios at you. And ask you how you would deal with that. Who will do the cooking? We could look at the cultures, we could look at the generational curses on both sides, and we could deal with those things before you get married and say, I do. And you know what? A lot of persons don't want to do that because they're afraid that the wedding day will be cancelled. And wouldn't you rather get a wedding day cancelled than to have to end up in a divorce? And again, it comes back, Madonna, a lot of the things comes right back down to foundation. To the foundation of things. And a lot of the times when we look at these type of relationships, these type of marriages that end, how did it begin? What was the preparation before? And also, let me push this in quickly. The aspect of post-marital maintenance. Not post-marital counseling, but post-marital maintenance. How is it going? Is the priest being the priest? Does the priest need extra training? The priest at the home, the husband, does he need extra training to understand how to navigate? Has he forgotten some of his roles and functions? Is there conflict in the marriage? Are you all dissolving conflict properly? These are some of the things that are necessary. But no, a lot of times we push these things apart, push it aside, and pretend as though everything going good. So we put on makeup, we put on three-piece suit, we come to church and we smile. Oh, everything, how married life, good, everything good. And you're fighting going back home in the car. And you was fighting coming to church too. And you're pretending that everything good, you're holding hands. And really and truly, you're only putting on a show. You're wearing a face, you're wearing a mask. So, it's just interesting how the conversation could just switch. Jesus. But these are some of the things that we must look at, because we look at the effect it has on our children. Look at the effect it has on our children. Look at the effect divorce has on our children. And in many cases, when we look at it as well, a lot of the times we see where also the issues that comes in from the marriage causes our children to stray. And yes, when you look at the fact that 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes, for example, we ask the question again, what's taking place in the home? So Madonna,
Yes. I was now telling my guest he could chime in if you have a little more time before he goes. This is Mr. Allan Charles, all the way from the UK, and he's having a play called Midlife Crisis. So it's around persons within our age group. So I think it's something that you would be able to identify with. But as we close off this segment, I just want us to put out there. We were talking about parenting, and do we think our future is in good hands after celebrating 60 years independence because it's young people committing crime? So what can we do more of or differently to ensure? Right? Let me see if I'm hearing you. Go ahead again.
Why are they committing crimes?
Well, there are many reasons.
They say that the apple don't fall far from the tree.
Oh Lord, here where you going?
Right. So
not necessarily all the time, because there are situations where persons just choose a life of crime after having good parents.
Okay, so we normally say, our parents were good parents and their parents were good parents, and there was manners, and there was obedience, and they were well behaved, right? Mm-hmm. So what happened to this generation? Why they're falling away so far from their upbringing?
Because parents aren't doing what they need to do, whereas our parents took responsibility.
Why aren't they? Why aren't? Because it's our children's generation that's suffering, right?
Yeah.
So me and you, we're same way, kind of same age.
Kind of.
So we got good brought up, see, right? Mm-hmm. So that means that the error is with us then, because we haven't instilled that same brought up to this generation.
And that's what we were saying tonight.
Okay.
We need to do more.
So what happened?
We need to do the right thing.
But what happened?
What happened?
What happened
Dexter?
to our generations? Our ability to parent our children
the way our parents did.
in the right way, so that they still maintain. Because obviously, if we're going through the train, our parents were good parents, so therefore we should be good parents or good. But something happened.
Something happened in between.
Yeah, something happened, and it's been intriguing for me to find out what it is that really happened. Why our children's generation seems to be falling away.
What are your thoughts on that, Dexter?
It's a very powerful question.
Mm-hmm.
And pleasant good evening to you, my brother. Is a legacy answer for me. He's not here.
You're not here, right? Okay, 1 second. All right, go ahead in the meantime.
Yeah, it's a legacy question, because we ask the question, and what is the legacy that our parents left, and did we carry it on? Or what was the legacy that our great-grandparents left that was handed down? And was it handed down, and did it continue the level of parenting? It begs the question. I hope the brother is hearing me.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hear
Beautiful.
him? Right.
Yeah. So that I am saying that when we look at the legacy, that has passed down from generation to generation in relation to parenting, did it pass on to us, and did we carry it on? And therefore, for me, I would say that at some point in time, there was a switch. There was a shift in parenting. There was a shift in what we would term the community raising the child. There was a switch in what the laws were, and all of a sudden what the prayer life was, and where Christ was, and his place in the church was, and we compromised. There was a compromise that took place. And sadly, it was allowed to take place. And I remember when I went to school on Fridays, for example, we had RI, and RI was on Fridays, and everybody would go to the different places like that, and the whole aspect of prayer and God was deeper, was more. And now we see where now, with the advent of social media, the aspect of laws and all these things have shifted parenting to an extent where there's a lot of compromising taking place. So
Okay, so can you answer me this, right? I don't know if you have noticed, right? But the way our parents parented us, they don't have that same discipline or for the grandchildren. So
Correct.
so stuff
Yes.
that we couldn't get away with, and when we try
They
to
get-
implement those harsh rules, parents are like, no, leave little Johnny. How do you explain that? Because that always fascinated me. That the same parents that used to give you a good beating for simple stuff, when you try to do the same discipline on your kids now, they as the grandparents say no.
Yeah, indeed, and we see where that's the aspect of compromise. That's where the shift is. It's compromise. And in many cases, some persons may argue that, well, long ago, that time passed. And we hear persons say that time passed, that was then, but this is a different era. This is a different time, and things change. And some of that accounts for how persons shift.
Right.
Now, even society on a whole, even the laws of the land has shifted, so that even some of the ways in which discipline was meted out to us is no longer accepted. In fact, we might, some of our parents, if we go back in time and apply them laws, they might end up incarcerated. You know.
True talk.
But the aspect of it is, I believe that there was a shift without adequate training. That's why I think it is.
I want to play this voice note. Quickly.
Go on and on with this. You are so right with that counseling situation. Too many times, couples look at counseling after their mind has already been made up. For the life of me, I could never understand that. I think counseling ought to determine the measure of compatibility people have. You go to counseling to determine how right you are for each other, not as some by the way kind of afterthought. Counseling ought to determine whether people are appropriate for each other.
Hi, Madonna. Good afternoon to you and your visitors. I am in a position where I can speak from experience. I brought up my two boys mostly on my own because communication is number one, and learning your kids what they're doing, what they're not doing, and have them telling you the truth. One of my sons come to me and said he's going to join a gang at the age of 10. I had to explain. And all of this is communication, praying, communication, and praying over them while they're awake and asleep. Cover them with the blood of Jesus Christ. I am saying this because now I am a proud grandparent of 5 grandsons. And I'm doing the same again. Let them know that obedience is important. From the above too, and now, always have them communicating with their father, no matter what the difficulties were. Okay, bye-bye. God bless. Love you guys.
Wow. So many things are coming out, and
From
of
the
it,
above
of the discussion with regards to parenting and the difference between then and now. And so therefore we wouldn't say we will go back to particular things, right? But there are the core values that need to be repetition.
Could we just conclude that the way in which the children or this generation is probably gone off the rails has just to do with spirituality? The fact that we're living in the last days and things must get worse before his return, or is that too simplistic? Because it's not going to get better. Dexter?
Yeah, I choose not to accept that.
Okay.
And I would not accept that, because to say that is to say that, you know what, we just give up, throw our hands in the air and let them do what they want. I believe that there's a remnant, and inside of there are persons who can be changed, who we could reach, who could transition, who we could reach in there and pull out, and I've done that many times.
Right, but you said there's a remnant, and remnant signifies a small minority. So the vast majority are going to be on the outside. Because you talk about remnant, right? A remnant is a small bit of a larger circle. So yes, we will reach the 1 and 2, but we're probably going to lose the majority because of the spiritual warfare that we are up against.
I don't
But then
think we
we would
would
know
lose
unless we
the
try.
majority. I think
We wouldn't.
I don't think we would lose them. I just think we need to rise up and work, because I think we have become lackadaisical. Our parents were more diligent with regards to how they did what they did. And now, because of social media, because of everything else, people are more laid back, as opposed to rising up. Parents would have you play a video game, watch the computer, watch some Netflix, that kind of thing, where our parents was more interactive with us.
But that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that we would have learned the discipline from our parents. So why aren't we extending
Right,
that
so
same
that's what I'm
discipline?
saying. We need to do that. We need to rise up and instead being laid back and go with the flow because of generations, but maintain that consistency that they did in the past. That's what I'm saying. Even with regards to simple thing as having respect, and we need to be consistent in what we say to them, because just as Dexter mentioned earlier, as teenagers, with all the changes, sometimes you will say, they're thinking a little bigger now, so they want to talk a little louder and everything, and we need to maintain that discipline as opposed to let it slide. Oh, they're getting older now, they could do it now. You understand? Not going into the rooms and check on them. You're not paying the mortgage. Yes, I'm going into the room, and if you want to lock the door, then I'll remove the door, then there's no door. Right? And so therefore, because of that, there's a transparency, and we are therefore diligent, as our parents were with us, because that's the key, that diligence. Yeah. So
Yes.
another parent was saying that sometimes they can't afford everything financially, but that doesn't mean that they're not good parents, and we're not saying that, because our parents couldn't afford a lot of stuff,
Exactly.
and that
And
didn't make them not good
Correct.
parents. Actually, we have the barrel children where the parents could afford a lot, is a lot of the problems that are because of that, and they tell you the parents wasn't connecting with them, there wasn't communication, just things, and that as well caused a lot of problems. And Dexter works in the prisons as well, and I'm seeing so many voices coming back, so I just want to try and take one or two of them, because we want to go into midlife crisis, why Allan is here, and persons our age can also identify with it.
Yes, I certainly agree with all the comments made by the other callers and the listeners so far, that counseling is a multidimensional approach. And some persons are of the belief, there's this generic concept of what being unequally yoked is. And you can have two persons that are saved and sanctified and anointed and appointed, and really and truly they are unequally yoked because of what their idea or concept of family and marriage may be. They may be on two totally different paths where socio-economic ambitions are concerned, even ambitions in ministry, ambitions in service to the kingdom, and all of that. Family backgrounds may cause them to have conflicting views and perceptions. And you don't want to be, it's a very messy and hurtful and unfortunate thing when those differences in ideologies come up after the nuptials, after rings have been placed on fingers, and certificates are already signed and all of that, that you all realize that you are two totally different persons, and it creates an aura or an environment of unhappiness, now trying to shape a life together with those differences that were not established prior to making a lifelong investment and decision into each other.
Right. So I know Dexter would have a comment for that because he mentioned it earlier and Alan, but I just want to run them through
Hi,
quickly
good night,
so
Miss
that
Madonna. Hi, this is DJ Otis Nixon, aka DJ Heavenizer. Uh, yeah, I think parents should teach their kids everything about human rights and how to go to heaven and how to put the mighty God first in everything. Yeah, I think we should
well.
do that.
Yeah, all right, appreciate that as well. Claudia, she was talking about, oh Claudia, if you send a voice note, that'd be so much easier. That's a lot to read. She says very good topic, very complex as well, and many couples plan the wedding but not the marriage, which is the case we identified. And some parents, right, cannot give what they don't have, and this is why this is where we as a community comes in. And I agree that it does take a community to raise a child. I agree with that a lot.
Good
Let me
night, Madonna. Good night to your guests, to all the guests. Madonna, long time parenting was much better. I grew up with my auntie. And Madonna, if my auntie gone to work and when she reach home, the neighbor watching, everything that was said and done, the neighbor could have gone to my auntie. No, you can't tell the parents nothing about the child, the neighbor, because it's cursed out. No, it's a whole community used to bring up children, and they had more respect. No, you can't tell nobody nothing about the children. They want to curse you out, and they want to curse you out in front of the children. We have to bring up children in godly. It have everything in the Bible. How we must train up our children, the way we must bring them out, bring them up. Long time, you could have go to your parents and talk to them about anything, right? You had that open communication. Nowadays, parents is friends with the children, so they feel that they could walk over the parents, they could do what they want, and all these different things. And everything that we say to our children, the things that we want them to do, we have to practice it also. We have to practice this. We can't tell our children to do this and we're doing the wrong things. All of that, it have a breakdown. Thank you.
All right, okay, I saw you. Go ahead,
Long
Alan.
time we could go and talk to our parents about anything.
Well, I don't know about that one. Not Beverly, at least.
Ah.
Not at all. I walked in the fear of her and the fear of the Lord.
And I want to ask the question for going back a few calls with the guys. Is there a difference between unequally yoked and incompatible? Is there a difference, or can they be used interchangeably? Interchangeably, because
Unequally yoked and
is it a case of that you're unequally yoked or you're incompatible? Because when he says that two safe people can be unequally yoked, so I'm asking, is it a case that you're unequally yoked or you're just simply incompatible?
That's a good question.
And that in itself is the importance of why premarital preparation is important and why the counseling aspect is important. Because in many cases, when we look at culture, sometimes the issue is the two of us Holy Ghost filled and sanctified, but our cultures
doesn't match.
I grew up where we just cut off the fish tail, and you grew up where we just bake the tail. And that is war, because know how you could bake the fish with the tail on. No, that can't happen. And the pot, I grew up putting the pot in the fridge when we done cook, and you grew up putting the food in bowls. And it's war in the house. It can't happen that way. And no, I'm not going on that way. I believe in a man supposed to have sex 5 times for the week, and once for the week, once for the month. And it's war. So when we look at it, that is why you need to subject yourself. And here's what: if you're preparing to get married and the man you engaged to or the woman you engaged to not interested in getting that premarital preparation or even counseling, then ask yourself questions from now. Because if they're not willing to submit to a process and they don't have no problem, it didn't really have no problem yet. Then when problems happen in the marriage, they wouldn't tell you what I is always here in my counseling office. Well, you go ahead now. You go ahead. All them counseling and all them counselors and them need counseling. I just hear that.
I think as a culture, and especially coming from the UK, you recognize that black folks are not really into counseling and therapy. It's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Because we know it all. We can deal with it. Whereas the European guys, therapy and counseling, they wear it like a badge of, oh, I went to therapy yesterday, blah, blah, blah. So I guess as a culture, we are not, our counseling
Caribbean
is the
culture.
barber shop for the man them. Understand? Going to a pastor or to talk about, that's not, and we kind of like touch on that in the play, midlife crisis.
Right.
You know, why men don't talk. You know, why men are afraid of going to the doctors.
Well,
stuff
let's
like that.
delve right in.
You know what I'm saying?
Why my men don't talk? I have too many here. Tell us why men don't talk. Why you don't talk?
We do talk. We do talk. And
Where?
I keep on saying this. And I just came from a seminar, singles ministry seminar, right?
Oh gosh, let me welcome. I want to welcome Allan Charles. He has done so many different places in Trinidad and Tobago. He's an international writer. Does his thing oh so well. You know, just now he and Tyler will get connected. and Doors, wow, we'll see him, you know, on BT. So he's here sharing with his latest
Play midlife crisis.
Midlife Crisis.
For better, not worse. Now, going back to the men talk. It's just that we talk differently from women. And we say little, but with that little, it is concentrated.
How we to understand?
Whereas women, you talk, you say a whole heap, but you say little. Whereas a man, when he speaks, you have to look for the nuggets. And sometimes women are so busy speaking, they're not listening because you can't speak and listen at the same time. And sometimes you guys just don't listen enough to hear and understand what we're saying. And we had a seminar today, and I'm telling you, it was magnificent because we just saw it there that when men talk, women hear one thing, a man is saying one thing, she's sharing something. So I guess it's just how we communicate. We men and women communicate differently.
How are we to learn how you all communicate, Dexter? How are we to learn?
You know, men speak in straight lines, women speak in circles.
Because of
you know, and nothing is wrong with that, except that in many cases when a man speaks, a woman processes based on her perception and her experience, her environment, and her personality. So that I'm talking about the translator. There's an issue between when the man speaks, what comes out of his mouth and what is received, and how it is perceived by the woman in many cases, and that causes the issues. And that's why you would hear a person say, I love you, you know, but I can't, we just can't communicate. And persons would come into my, come in for counseling, and the first thing I would give them is a communication exercise. And sometimes from there, I am able to see a big bacchanal in the counseling room because one person have to call out something and another person draw it and his worries. And this is what, and you would hear the man trying to say, this is what I mean.
Right.
And he's trying to get the three words out. He's trying to get the sentence out, and the woman is going at 90. And he's saying, you see what I'm talking about? They see what I'm talking about? And nothing is wrong with that, except that when two people are coming together, it needs to be addressed so that the communication style and language is understood between the two of them before they say I do. Because when you start to live in the same environment with that, it becomes an issue. And let me just jump in one thing quickly. The aspect of mommy in the matriarchal society and the matriarchal region and the country that we live in, where the majority of women grew up, the majority of men in single parent homes, mommy was always like that. Some cases, mommy was the shouting, quarreling person with very verbally abusive, because a lot of our women, in the absence of the man, believe that in order to control the boys, they need to be aggressive. Yeah. So they outwardly become very aggressive, very stern, very loud. And the majority of men, boys, don't like it. But I'm mommy, so I will take it. But when I get into a relationship and you try to talk to me like how mommy used to talk to me about problems, because you can't talk to me so. So what I would not tell mommy, I will tell you.
Real talk.
And what I would not do, mommy, I will do you. And so we see the issue of the words becoming the cuff. And then we see the burden now of the domestic violence and all of these situations that sometimes happens because of that. So this is deep.
Yeah. So yeah, he hit the nail on the head there. So midlife crisis, the new play, coming on the 16th of October. So basically, in the play, we're dealing with a married couple. They've been married for 25 years. The kids have left to gone to university. The mortgage is paid. Look across to each other and they realize that I don't think I love you. I don't think I know you. I don't think we are compatible, because they spend the marriage doing life, the life of raising the kids, the life of paying the bills. They weren't intentional about their love for each other and growing with each other. So once the kids have gone, the distractions have gone now. It's like, how do we now manage the season of our life where, it's just me and you in the house?
That happened during COVID too.
You understand?
People midlife crisis was forced during COVID.
Right. I have a pastor friend who told me that once the kids left, he was afraid to go home.
Wow.
Because he didn't know how to talk to his wife just on that one-on-one outside of
how they met.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's real. This aspect of what we call midlife crisis. You reach a stage where you're looking at your life, you're comparing, you don't know if you fulfilled your goals that you should have. You become fearful, you become anxious, and sometimes you end up making bad decisions because you're either trying to recapture your youth or trying to accomplish stuff in a shorter time because you want to reach all these goals before 60 or 65 or whatever. And so sometimes we can allow ourselves to start making unwise decisions. They do say that I don't know if Dexter can bear me that where marriage is concerned, the first 5 years is where you probably get most of the divorce, and the second segment is after the kids have left. Is that right? Or thereabouts.
Dexter. Oh, okay.
Yeah, indeed. Well, one of the things that you say outright there, the aspect of the emptiness, and when the nest is empty, then we realize we were taking care of the family, but not taking care of the marriage.
Right.
Yeah. And the second thing that jumps out to me and what you said, and it's so important, that the midlife crisis comes in at a point when the person is in that stage of generativity versus stagnation. And he's now preparing, or she's now preparing he is preparing to channel into ego identity versus despair.
Mm-hmm.
And when he looks at the time that he has remaining before he reaches that 60, 65 retirement age, he looks and says, I don't have enough time. I may not have enough time. And that builds the anxiety, because if I'm not generating, if I have not generated, then if I am stagnant, if what I had planned to do, I intended to reach this part, I intended to have a house by now, I intended to have a good job by now, I intended to have a nest egg of funds to put my children through college and all these things. All of these things comes in at the point of midlife crisis, because I'm looking at generativity versus stagnation. I'm looking at, okay, I'm set to retire soon, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to pay off the mortgage, pay this off, pay that off. And then I'm battling now with these feelings, these hormones, these emotions of what the brother was speaking about. So is again,
and so to follow on that, so what's happening in the play, that the husband is trying to establish his legacy before he dies or whatever, doing everything that he can to save the world. In the meantime, the wife is feeling neglected, unappreciated. And now at work now, there's somebody else who's,
Tom.
who's paying a little attention that she's not getting at home. And so the challenge is that he's balancing, he's trying to establish himself and provide and whatever, as opposed to, because obviously your first ministry is to your family, but sometimes we can be guilty, whether you're ministers, music ministers or pastors, of sometimes the church or the congregation becomes consume you, so you don't really have the time to, and that in itself as well can create some of the problems that we will see portrayed in the play, and we talk about like men's issue, like I said, why men are afraid to approach the doctors, simple stuff like that. We a woman will more quicker go and check stuff out. We procrastinate and they need that, blah blah blah. But and so we're dealing with some serious, hard-hitting issues, but sprinkled with enough humor. The big one that we always talk about: can married people, as we spoke about the other day, have friends, best friends of the opposite sex?
We had those discussions.
And how do we manage that? Is it wise? Can it be done? Should it be encouraged? Does my friends have to be your friends? Can we have separate friends? So these are
the doctor part. We had a discussion. We actually had women and men, and the men tell us how we could woo them into going to the doctors, coming out of women who were having that challenge quite recently about really loving their husbands and caring for them. And they would just say do part one, but the other part was another challenge. So we had a program on that, and how do we get the men to go to the doctors for part two then?
Yeah, because especially as well, right now in the UK, there's a drive for men to go and sort out their prostate. So the black men after 45, you know what I'm saying? And they're finding that we're just not going.
Wow.
You understand? So those are some of the stuff that we're trying to,
And the friends thing, Dex, do you think you're and I won't keep you any longer. See your eyes. So I'd give you a 5 minutes, or if you want, you can sign out so Allan and I can take it from here. Right? Just one quick question. Do you think a male or a husband can have friends, like let's say if he had his best friend was a girl and now he's married, can they maintain that friendship as they would before? Or is their wife now their best friend? I don't know.
It is a topic of contention, and most recently I had a program on that. The aspect of it is my personal belief, and my wife and we both agree that best friends, my best friend is my wife. I have good friends. But that title of best friend, we became best friends before I proposed. The first relationship we had was best friend. And before we started to court, when I just met her, we weren't best friends. I just met, and over time, we grew into best friends. And then from best friends, we started to develop into a more intimate, a more relationship. And then it eventually led to us becoming engaged and going through that whole process of, what am I saying? I'm saying that one of the missteps we make is going to marriages thinking that everything will be normal after. I go keep my best friend and you go keep your best friend. And when we look at the behaviors of our best friend, we see where it has the potential to create issues within the marriage. When it starts setting boundaries and resetting boundaries, because what was allowed before may not be able to continue after.
So does that include both male and female? So whether you're bringing in a female friend or a male friend, would both sexes have the same kind of impact on the marriage, in the sense that the friendship that you may have with your buddy, your male buddy, would also change? or would it only just change if it's a
It
female?
has to change. It does change. It has to change. You see, we must understand as well as men and as women, as priest of my home and king of my home, there are things that shouldn't be allowed. There are things that shouldn't happen. And if, for example, imagine my wife and I having a conflict, and instead of she speaking to me about an issue she having, she's speaking to Jim about an issue in my marriage. When that conversation should be happening with me.
That's happening for Jim to move in.
but okay, so what about the idea that sometimes you need an outside perspective?
When you say I need an outside perspective.
Yeah, because you might want okay. So I'm talking to my wife, and I'm hearing her perspective regarding this particular situation. But I might want to hear, what does Madonna think? You know what I mean? Or what does Harry think? Or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, yes, I know that obviously you should speak to your spouse first. But what about the wisdom of hearing? I mean,
Talk to Pastor.
Well, the word of God says that in the multitude of counselors there is safety.
Right.
And therefore, the problem is not seeking advice, but is seeking the right advice from the right people. And sometimes we find as well in relationships, even in friendship relationships, the person who you call in your body or your best friend really had an ulterior motive or feelings for you at some point in time. And they might be the first person to tell you I wasn't a married man. And I tell you that. I did tell you that with that woman. And these are some of the things that we must be very careful about the enemy. It's okay to have persons that you could get information, you could get advice from, and all these things, but who is very important. And anytime you have to sneak around to get an answer or a question asked, check yourself. Must be that open. I have female friends, yes, and I could say that if I have to, is no problem. My wife know. If I have to pick up somebody of the opposite sex, my wife know. There is no secret. I put on my phone here. My wife will pick up my phone. She will go through. She just post up things on my WhatsApp. Because it have no secrets. The level of relationship that we have and share. But that don't happen just like that. And you see, you must never give your spouse an opportunity to deteriorate your trust. And that's the thing. So that we are open. And that's what we need to do. You need to be open. Okay, I have a female friend. No problem in having a female friend. There are boundaries. And as long as she understands that boundaries and you understand that boundaries, and here's what, anytime any one of my female friends makes my wife feel uncomfortable about anything, it has to be addressed. And the first person on top there is wife. The other side of me, the other half of me. And so if it ever comes down to me having to choose between my wife and my friend, well, guess what? Friend, you have to bounce.
Okay, let me ask a question here. Does that also include if, for example, your wife is in the wrong?
Sorry?
Does that include even if your wife is in the wrong?
If she's in the wrong, depending on what the situation is.
Yeah, because
again, now we go in a point where it comes to situational. So if you bring up an example, for example, then I'll be able to probably get a great understanding of what exactly you say when you say she's in the wrong.
Like, okay, so supposing your wife just have a dislike for your friend for no apparent reason, except that she probably had something with her. Nothing to do with you and that person. Some misunderstanding, some disagreement, some falling out in times gone by.
Okay,
right?
So she has a difficulty.
So it's nothing to do with you're gonna run off with her. They had a disagreement. They never like her because of some other issue, right? So her reasons for you not being friends is not based upon it's going to affect the marriage per se. It's just her own I don't know if
insecurities.
Yeah. Well, not even insecurities about the two. Some other issues that they had, and I just don't like Madonna. Not because I think Madonna is going to move in on you, or you're gonna. But I don't know Madonna because I don't know she's loud or.
But you see, the thing about that is, as a psychologist, that came from an experience. Her initial action now, that action was birthed by feelings and thoughts based on an experience she had. And what's necessary there is a conversation with everybody. Maybe firstly with wifey to find out, okay, what's going on? Why you don't like this person? What are your issues with her? What is it that you're not settled with, and all these things? And chances are, if it's something from the past, it should have been dealt with before marriage. And if not, and you see, this is why the order is so important. If not, then you'll have to deal with it in post-marital maintenance. In the maintenance of the marriage, this would be something that you would need to go to the counselor with and deal with, because it could start as a rash and get very, very bad. Yeah. So therefore, I like the point you raised, because it is a real issue. It happens. But persons must know and understand that, hey, counseling in itself is not just to go because somebody feel you have some mental illness. No. The aspect of counseling is to help you to help yourself in a lot of the areas of your life. And so you may be having a financial issue. You could come in for a session. You may be having issues with yourself. You want to break some news to your family, some health issue. Come in for counseling. Let's create the environment. Let's bring them in and have the conversation. You're having issues with your children. I have sessions with families all the time to help mend families, to help deal with the issues between husband and wife, mother and child, father and child. You know, so it's more than just persons just see it as, and you rightly say, it's a culture, but we need to break that culture now. So, you know, I thank you for it, but it is really deep. If there's an issue and your wife not settled, then you wouldn't be settled. So deal with it. And if you believe, listen, it have nothing going on here, there's no reason why you should be behaving so. Something must have happened. Babes, what happened? What happened to cause this? And if you can't get to the bottom of it, babes, you're willing to go for a session to deal with this, to find out where this coming from. She may not know. She may not even realize that it's a baggage she toted from a previous relationship, for example.
Because I know like simply like growing up, I remember like growing up, because I grew up in St. Vincent. So like the two mothers of the one house left and right, they fall out because of whatever, and they expect the kids them who've been friends to fall out too. You know what I'm saying? So because the parents are not talking for whatever reason, you understand? And that I don't know if that should be so. I think that because the two of you out there you fall out, doesn't mean that we as kids or we as siblings should get involved in your disagreements.
Well, that's a tricky one, boy.
No, actually, it's a perfect example, Madonna, of what we do in counseling and going back to the root. Because she may be behaving like that with your best friend female, or not your best friend, but your friend female, because of her experience in childhood, observing what took place between mother and neighbor. And when we go back down into narrative therapy, and we go back and we ask you to tell your story, and during the story we start pulling out issues and things that happened, and then in that instance we could ask a question like, so tell me, what do you think about the relationship your mother shared with the neighbor? And start you thinking about it. What do you think? Do you believe it is the right relationship? How do you feel about it?
Wow. And then
How
what
do you
if those
think
two
you solve
persons,
issues?
the children now want to get married? Look drama, because the parents in talking and do like one another.
And therefore, that's why premarital preparation is so important. Because your fiancé not speaking to her dad. In fact, she's trying to get somebody else to walk her down the aisle. So she have baggage from since a child because she's not speaking to her dad for years. And her mother not speaking to the dad because they know what happened.
And some instances, the mother walked the child down the aisle.
Yes.
And over situation like that,
But here's what. When issues start in the marriage, the same way I feel about daddy is how I'll treat you. So the aspect of dealing with it before marriage is so important. Because if you fail to deal with it, if she cannot love her father, how could she love you? How could she treat you? How would she treat you? And sometimes it's an unconscious process. The behavior is, I don't want to behave so, I don't know why I'm behaving like this, but I just behaving like this until you go back to the root and realize the level of resentment and hurt and unforgiveness that exists for the male.
Wow.
And so it's deep.
So the play is very deep. Very deep. Serious issues, but again, we sprinkle in enough humor to make it so you don't leave the play feeling depressed and down. It is a comedy. So come out one and all. We're going to be at SAPA on the 16th of October. We're going to be at Central Bank on the 23rd and 24th. Tickets are only 175 TT, available from A&A Pharmacy in Port of Spain, ITHNAC, Living Legacy over in Arima, and Maranatha Sando. Or you can get your tickets online at a cheaper rate of only 160. www.theticketsellers.co.uk. We've got some of the finest actors and personalities in Trinidad and Tobago. And actually, Madonna should have been in the cast, but I don't know what happened there. Because you know Madonna is pure drama, right? So we got like Kieran Ramsey, Sandra Thomas, Karen Richards, Joshua Modest. We got David Clark, Karen Noel, Michelle Sylvester, Jaron Nurse. You know him as a singer. You're gonna see him on the stage as an actor, and it's as a play for the whole family. It's a play for the saved, the unsaved. Bring your mother, father, uncle, friend, neighbor. Everybody come out and enjoy. We normally say that there's enough stuff for us as in the body of Christ, but we're bringing you clean, uplifting, edifying drama.
Yeah, man. Come out as a couple and enjoy. You would have lots of fun. And here we were just talking about family and talking about that emptiness. Don't wait until it's empty. Then work on it from now. You know, that bond, keep it together. We know COVID was, that's kind of culture shock to many couples,
Because now it's just that you're in the house 24/7 now.
Crazy.
The extra pressure, you don't have the escape of work.
So come on down and midlife crisis. For all my listeners, all those who what's up, Tobago, just, come across quickly, yeah? And be a part of it. And it is going to be a blessing. I want to thank you, Pastor Dexter de Bellotte, for sharing with us. And also, yes, you can. Also, for persons who would want counseling, feel free to call them. And he's more than willing to help you. He'll give you his contact number.
Yes, indeed. And persons, I want to encourage persons to really seek the help necessary. Don't wait till you're in crisis to then scream out for help or cry for help. Sometimes it's too late. You can send me a WhatsApp, or you can call me at 369-7801. 369-7801. Either WhatsApp or give me a call and let's work it out. Let's deal with it, right?
Awesome.
So God bless.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
And my brother.
Yes, sir. We need to link.
Yes. That's what we do here. Everybody links and get connected. It's really, a family here. So God has called us to just connect and build stronger families and relationships. So thank you again for being here. My love going out to your family. And so Allan, we're looking forward to Midlife Crisis.
Indeed, yes.
And lots of excitement coming on out of it. So we want to encourage you. So all those that are locked on, I'm telling you, the cast is amazing. I'm excited to see them. All right. And You get there at some point in time. So once you're over 40 and you want to learn about it as well if you're younger, come on down and be a part of it. And it will be lots of fun and it'll be real. I know it's some things are really going to hit home. And so we're not waiting until a crisis.
No. And
right?
But also remember that with Christ in your life, you're able to deal with the crisis in your life.
Awesome.
And if I could just tell you about, we're doing a men talk on Sunday at Daybreak Assembly.
Okay.
5:30. So the men are talking, the women are coming and listening.
We coming to listen?
Just to listen.
Okay.
Can you do that? Can you come and just sit
you
while...
were talking to Allan the entertainer. I find when you came, we were, but now it's different. Somehow I feel Allan the entertainer influencing you. I don't know. I just feeling that, I just feeling that.
you know that we have the same birthday, right?
You and him?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's Allan, I'm Allan. He's 10th of April, I'm 10th of April.
Wow.
Yeah. But no, there's no influence there. We just want to create a safe space for men to talk about some of the issues from the play, but for women to hear the conversations. Because you say that we don't talk, we're telling you we do talk. So come and listen to hear how we talk, because sometimes what happens is that when you're at home with your husband, you're not really hearing him, or you think that he's been far-fetched. But when you now come and you hear other men repeating the same thing, you're probably more able to embrace what he's saying. So
what time is it?
5:30 p.m. at Daybreak Assembly this coming Sunday, and the host will be Dion Green. He just did a marvelous one with the youths and the singles at Open Bible Laventille.
Okay.
Yeah, we had fun. We had fun with the singers, the conversation, the debates, the discussion. Oh, it was amazing. And now we're going to do it with the men.
Okay, awesome. Lots of exciting things, man. Wow, ministry continues. I'm loving what I'm hearing, Allan. You really have the fire continuing to burn.
We're trying to take it. So we're bringing the stuff to Trinidad and Tobago, my second home, and just really encourage you guys to come out and lend support, to the guys are working so hard, learning the lines and putting it together, and just come out and support. Let's have a good time. Have a good time.
And at the 16th, where you said it will be?
Sapa. It's going to be at Sapa in South, and then the 22nd is sold out already. But the 23rd and 24th, which is Sunday and Monday, Monday's bank holiday.
Okay.
So come out at 6:30. Doors open at 6 p.m.
And that's the Central Bank.
Central Bank, right here in Port of Spain.
All right, and where we can get tickets again?
A&A Pharmacy in Charlotte Street. IFNAC is another cause, Avenue. Legacy Pharmacy in Arima.
Good.
And in San Fernando at Maranatha.
Awesome.
Bookstore, and online, so the tickets are $175, but online you get it for $160. Doing a deal because we know that the recent budget kind of like hit you hard, so we're gonna give you a little change. I mean, to buy some doubles, buy half a roti, put in extra gas in your car.
Oh Lord.
We're doing our bit for the budget.
It's okay.
I know, you know how we do it. You know how we do it.
Oh Lord, you see, so the UK is already feeling sorry for us.
Well, we're feeling it up there as well. I mean, our gas is terrible. It's almost like £2 a litre, 180 something. So it's all around the world, not just here. Everybody is feeling the pinch.
We have to really plan our economics better and how we spend.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Everybody have to
tighten
our belts, and
Well, it's life, yeah. We got to do what we got to do at the end of the day.
Indeed.
So thank you again, Allan. I don't want to keep
Thank
you too
you
long
for having me.
So
And yes,
I know you're exhausted.
Hope to see you guys at the show. And also tomorrow is one other plug, the One Heart show tomorrow.
One Heart, okay.
One Heart show at Lick Carib.
Right.
Terrence Baines, Jaron Nurse, Sandra Thomas. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Nice. Okay, what time is that?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah. One Heart.
Right. All right, so let me see if I can come across after.
Cool.
Yeah. So, all right. I don't want you to go just yet, but we are coming off with regards to being online. Thank you, online. Oh gosh, online. Forgive me. I was managing WhatsApp I didn't go on, but love you guys. I know you were on and you already received what we were doing this evening. We really got some excellent feedback. All those that sent voice notes, thank you, thank you, thank you. And be back with you next Friday for some other interesting, exciting conversations as we continue to call to action what we can do to make a difference in changing our generation, because they are our future. So we need to impact and bring change. Yeah?
Amen.
So have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, evening, and